Hi everyone, Gwen the Recovering Witch here, and welcome back to my channel and welcome to this video. This video, I'm probably going to call it somewhere around taking care of our parents, what to do, what's going to be the focus on that when the time comes and how to prepare, because I think with what I've been experiencing lately, if it can help you, I would love for this video to help someone else, because there's no instructions for when life happens, right? And I've been talking to a couple of friends in state and out of state, and we've all been having like a really hard time. And so no matter who we talk to, it always comes back to us, right? Where we're kind of connected in some sort of way. And then we know someone who has either had the same experience, what to expect, giving the advice, suggestions, and so on and so forth. And so the more that we share this information with one another, the more that we're able to help ourselves and help each other. I did want to not necessarily give like a really big update, but just based on what the experiences have been personally in the last several months, for the footwork that had to be done, maybe that can help you if you are finding yourself that you're having to be the parent to your parents. I think the last video that I did where it was kind of giving an update was around like March, April, about the last visit with my mom to the neurologist office. And so from the few months from then on, it's been in the process of getting her settled. And so to make a long story short, I had to get a mental health warrant filed for my mom because her hallucinations and paranoia were just getting really out of control, and she was becoming very forgetful. And I was thinking back at a time when I did the video with her that's on my YouTube channel here. I could tell maybe then also is when the paranoia was starting to get to the point where before it was getting worse. So I had to file a mental health warrant for my mom, and that was here in the Houston area. You could check your city, state, and see the procedures on doing that. And that's only if you do feel that the person is being a detriment to self and other people. So my brother and I were super concerned. She was getting to the point that she didn't trust us. And it was just really sporadic behavior. It was like, she thought maybe he was up to something and not doing good, which all he was just doing was going to work. And for me, she thought my husband and I were conspiring against her to take her possessions, which we were not doing at all. And people that she was seeing, she was confusing that they were related to certain people, and that wasn't the case. And so there was just a lot going on there, and it needed to be diagnosed. And I got her a neurologist, and typically the way that works is that your primary care physician will make a suggestion or put in an order or referral to go see a specialist. So when I took her to her primary care physician, it was probably still too early, but I wasn't too happy with that visit. So I took it amongst myself. I used to work in a call center years ago, and being in human resources for a bit, you know how certain plans work and the insurances and stuff like that. And so I went ahead and I just found the neurologist, and the neurologist put in a few orders between blood work and MRI scans and all that stuff to see what was going on. So, since my mom was getting worse, she wasn't really taking the prescriptions that were prescribed by the neurologist, because she wasn't a big believer in medication. And we didn't really have like a proper diagnosis. I had to do the mental health warrant, and you might find yourself at a crossroads basically of like what point to take and about to give up and can't. So I felt she was becoming a detriment to herself, and if her paranoia got worse, it could be that she would be a detriment to my brother as well and his safety. So I had to go downtown to fill out a warrant, and well, it wasn't exactly downtown. I went to downtown. It was the wrong location. I had to go to the medical center because that's where they have a specific building to do that. So when you file a mental health warrant in the city of Houston, you have to make sure that there is a hospital bed available for the person that you are trying to file the warrant on. There is a list provided for that, but the first hospital that I placed her in that had the hospital bed available, I think I was just so desperate for the assistance. It wasn't a good one, but through all this, it was a learning experience. So the warrant will have the officers, police come and pick up that person because the judge approved the order, and they will take them to the hospital because they had a bed available. The first one that I took her to, they said they do specialize in geriatrics, and they will take anyone basically at that one, and it was just a horrible experience all the way around, but I'm not going to get into that. And I took care of what needed to be done after because her discharge was such a shoddy job. So the week that she was home, I was trying to call another hospital that was referred by somebody who has a group where they help with is like a senior advisor, and I'm hoping that there's other programs that are around to assist, not just here locally, but if you are locally here, great. And you stumble across this video, I hope so. But they're advisors that can suggest and point you in the right direction of finding a lawyer, paperwork that needs to be done, financial assistance, and all that. And before my mom was placed in that hospital, I was referred to by a friend by this advisor, and he was trying to help me with the proper steps in finding a place. So, because my mom really needed to be monitored. So, this person also suggested a hospital that specializes in geriatrics. I can't speak enough good things about HCA Tomball. They do have a geriatric behavioral unit that's a locked unit, and they really take great care of their patients and making sure that there's different activities, observing their behavior and all that, but it's not permanent. It's just very strictly a certain time frame before they can discharge the patient that they think that they're stable enough to be discharged. When time comes to discharge, they walked you through the whole entire steps along the way of what can be done, what needs to be done, game plan, what you need to do your part as a family member, and get those things squared away before the patient is released. As far as your parents, getting a lawyer on standby that does specialize as far as last will and testament, that's really super important. There are 2 power of attorneys that most likely will be needed. You can have a dual power of attorney, which I have that, but that's really more of the financial that takes care of their estate and possessions and all that, bills, access to accounts and all that. So that's important if, again, something is slipping in say your parents, right? You're able to get access to those things based off of this document, right? Then the one thing that was the downfall was that dual power of attorney does not go into medical scenarios. You have to have a separate one for that. And I found that out from somebody else that I met through Vendor Market as well. People also talking about that to me too through this agency. And they're unpaid, by the way, like they're a nonprofit. So they do this all for free, depending on the estate. So if there's like a home involved, because then it kind of goes into swinging into financial and their insurance. So we had to do a document called the Ladybird Deed. I don't know if it's just here in Texas or if that's outside, but maybe looking into that. The point of the Ladybird Deed was to help my brother in his living situation with the safety. Because in the event that something happens to my mom, we haven't gotten her in for Medicaid, but if you do apply for your parents for Medicaid, if they fit in that, the first thing that the state is going to look at is what assets are that the person has. So that's the reason for the cause of the Ladybird Deed, is to protect, I guess, in scenarios like that. And so just to make sure that my brother had a stable living situation in the event on just the rate of things happening, if it came to that scenario of my mom passing, that her estate is protected. So that way he is protected. So that's the reason why we did that. The help or assistance that you could get from state government, local government, to actual federal government, it ranges. And so my mom was kind of like in this, like, well, you're not below this line, but you're not like making so much. And so we fell in this in between where it's like, there's not really like a lot of assistance. And so, so she has her Social Security, which is a very, I mean, today, now that everything's going up, it's really not a whole hell of a lot. And so that's going into her living expense, because now we have put her into a personal caring home. And that was because she needed someone to assist her as far as taking her medications. So the prognosis that my mom has is schizoaffective disorder, bipolar, and early dementia. And so the schizoaffective disorder had a lot to do with her hallucinations and the paranoia. And so there are medications to help assist with that. But again, it's having to be continuous and really being sure to take them. And then the early dementia doesn't help with remembering to take them. So that is where my mom is currently at. So if you're starting to see the changes within your parents, especially like with us in our age range, where I'm going to be 37 next month, you know, you kind of figure out like what needs to be done. So hopefully your parents are allowing you to assist. If not, and they're being just as stubborn. I mean, I'm stubborn. I know where I got it from. That might have to be the action you take. The feelings that come along with it, it's not something that you want to do. I would say hold off if that is the last resort. And I mean, for me, that was the last resort. I tried every, I'm going to call it phone a friend type of thing that I could do on finding assistance through the city to help my mom without having this being the final resort. And it really is. And so the constables come to the house, they're going to send you a bill for $150 to come and escort your parent. But depending on the shape that they're in, my mom's still fit and active enough that she didn't need to ride in an ambulance to the hospital. So she was escorted by the constables. So I talked about the paperwork, her diagnosis, what to look out for, but you're basically having to treat your parents like they're a kid. And as much as she doesn't like it, it's me having to establish those boundaries with her again. And it's been a very sticky process of me thinking about a lot of things, especially from like that last video that I talked about in March, April. And so what I have to do is, and I think still for anyone else, it's making sure you sticking with your boundaries, because they will try to push them. And I thought it was better. Another thing to talk about too, and I'll get to that in a minute, but this room was supposed to be her room, and now it's the witch room. She's going to stay with us next week for the holiday. So but it's going to be the witch room. My brother and I tried to do the tag team thing because he was the one primarily taking care of her. But since we had noticed all these changes that she was exhibiting, like, we both were just like, we don't know what to do. And so sometimes it's very hard for us to admit. It's like, we can do it. But the thing is that there has to be this admittance that you're probably not going to be as equipped as somebody else to do it, especially if it's kind of hard now, like, wait till later. So I was kind of working through the feelings on that of like the shame and thinking of, well, this is how it's going to go as a plan, and then really diverting from the plan. And what was sticking with me was before my mom got this bad, because she's been almost retired 2 years now. I remember when I was still routinely like going to AA meetings online through my home group when we were in the beginning of like isolation because of COVID. I had one lady tell me, it might be better for me. I know we want to do the right thing, but it's probably best for me to have my mom. And I will say, I didn't want to believe this woman, on having a place for my mom, like assisted living or whatever. And because I really thought I was like, no, this is the plan and that's how it's going to stick. And then it was like a 180. So, I guess because generationally, like, that's how we're brought up, is that because the parents take care of the kids are supposed to take care of their parents. And I was feeling kind of ashamed to that I wasn't able to do it. And I got over that. I think it's just now the playing back and forth of, I think I can do it. But in the long run, I know for me and my sanity and the relationship that my mom and I have left, because it was pretty bad. I will say it was very rough. If you go on YouTube and search up Alzheimer's, dementia patients and their behaviors as they progress and they go along, I mean, I have to commend any worker or any adult child that's taking care of their parent who is exhibiting this. I mean, it's there. You're going to have your good days and your bad days. And it's all a matter of like having the proper diagnosis, basically. So my mom is definitely doing a lot better because she is having her medicines that are regulating her moods. And I'm finding a way to be patient and having to talk to her. But again, establishing boundaries as I'm trying to figure things out, because there were some tendencies and behaviors that were there before the diagnosis came in, right? And before the dementia and Alzheimer's happened. So I think that's the financial. So I was talking about where we're in the middle. So most likely if your parents are 65 and older, they'll have the Medicare, but sometimes you could apply for Medicaid through the state, but you have to meet a certain criteria that's below of a certain value of what they have of income. And so also pension for surviving, spouses and children for vets. I'm trying to see if my mom still qualifies through her second husband, because her second husband passed away while they were still married when she was in her 30s. And so trying to go that route. So it just takes forever. So if you do have, like with one of your parents that were part of the military, you can apply for that pension. And I honestly can't remember for the life of me what it's called. But if you have a question about it, please leave a comment and I can definitely go back and find what that form that you could fill out is. And you have to have a documentation from the service with the service number of that, the person who was enlisted, and discharge or whatever. So that's really about it. I will say, don't feel so much of the shame on having to have someone come in to assist. It doesn't speak on you as a child, on how you're, not being the one to physically take care of your parent. And you really have to be mindful of what's going on with you here, because it can be very stressful, or anything that we've been going through has been really stressful. And I'm not saying for me individually, but I know, like, with a lot of us, what we've been going on through, especially in the last couple of years, it's been a lot, and it's going to get better. It is going to get better. So I know, like, we've all been having some rough times out there. We have to have the reminder of hope that it is going to get better. We have to be hopeful. But I can't say, has it been like an entire like mess? Yes, and it's been a mess because of going through the hard time and my recovery, sobriety. I haven't drank, so that's through all this. So I made 5 years in July. Whoop whoop. And I know times get hard, and you get really into this point of like, man, it would be really good to do that right now. Again, it's not going to fix anything. And I mean, if you're struggling, still know that there's proof that you can go through life on life's terms without having to self-medicate. Even though it's hard. Because remember, we get into this because we're thinking like we're trying to numb the feeling. We're going through it, and it's just remembering the feeling will pass. Eventually, over time. It gets better. It doesn't get easier. It just gets better. So, what else? Spirituality. Because this isn't really much so a witchy video today. But I did want to say that I really had to dig in like as much as I could when I felt like there wasn't really any hope left in this situation. I found out that I'm a lot tougher than I thought I was, and you can be too. And that's what the dark goddesses show you, even though in the times that you feel that you are alone, you're not alone. They stand right there with you in the darkness and being like, okay, what's your next move? So through this time, I took a couple trips. One of them, my husband went with me, and sometimes you do need that renewed sense of energy just to kind of get away, even if you can't like take a trip. Just taking a time out for yourself, it helps tremendously, and having a lifeline of people to talk to, and really looking at and assessing things and what you can do on your part, and not really focusing in on what the other person is doing, because it's very easy to do that, of like pinpointing like, well, they're the problem, yeah, they could be the problem, but at the same time, you can't fix them. So what can you do for yourself in the meantime and in the moment to kind of not necessarily take control of the situation, but taking control of one's self. And so the Morgan there every step of the way. Some days it feels like she's not, but I know she is there. I have noticed that I feel like now she's kind of pushing me into another deity's way. And so I'm kind of gearing up for that right now on studying more and building more of a relationship with her than I have been, and working on dedication pieces and stuff like that for her, and kind of building a little bit of a relationship. But it really haven't bringing her into spell work and calling her in more, but really getting deep into a relationship with that deity. So if you're feeling that you're being called in one direction to another deity or entity, it's not that. Your initial god or goddess that you are either devoted or dedicated to, they're not giving you the boot and being like, disappear. You didn't do anything wrong. It's just there's only so much that they can teach you. You're probably best on going to that deity, the new one that is better equipped on the next lesson you need to learn. So I'm sorry that this video is entirely a little way too long, but I wanted to get a lot of things covered. And I really hope that this helps you. I hope you're doing well. And if you have any questions, please feel free to post them on the comments if you're having the same thing going on with your parents, because I feel like there's a lot of cases, more so now, of Alzheimer's and dementia that are happening. Alzheimer's Association, if you have a chapter, Houston is likely to have one here, but if you can reach out to the association, they'll be more than glad to help you, and it is free. So don't feel like you're going through it alone. It's a messy process. There's no right or wrong way. It's just trial and error and just being willing to do the footwork to do it and not quit. So I'll see you in the next video. Take care.